A very good evening to everyone. Welcome to our health talk. And we greet you. And from wherever you're joining us, we are glad to have you. I will pray and then we will share the screen and proceed. We're looking at maintaining good health in this present pandemic. So welcome, glad to have you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of discussing health. We know that our bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit, and your will for us is wholeness, spirit, soul, and body, even as we wait for the kingdom of glory. Bless our discussion now, our presentation and discussion. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen. So thank you and welcome. I will share the screen at this point in time. And that is our subject, maintaining good health in the pandemic. This introduction is from 3 John verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. And this quotation from Counsels on Diets: grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. These foods, prepared in as simple and natural a manner as possible, are the most healthful and nourishing. They impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet. Counsels on Diets 313. And though written over 100 years ago, that statement is full of modern, scientifically evidenced fact. This other one, very important, introducing before we get going. I must become acquainted with myself. I must be a learner always as to how to take care of this building. This is also from Counsels on Diets and Foods. This building, the body God has given me, that I may preserve it in the very best condition of health. I must eat those things which will be for my best good physically. And I must take special care to have my clothing such as will conduce to a healthful circulation of blood. I must not deprive myself of exercise and air. I must get all the sunshine that it is possible for me to obtain. I must have wisdom to be a faithful guardian of my body. Counsels, Diets and Foods 302. Now we are going to look at an important point, genes. Some people have inherited powerful, well-regulated immune systems which can fight off any virus. Some people are less fortunate and may have inherited below average immune systems. Some people inherit a predisposition to autoimmune disease where the immune system is aggressive against self. And some inherit immune systems of average strength. And we really don't know who is who. So that is why we see in a particular pandemic, some people may have the virus and don't even sneeze. Others may have the virus and fight and recover. Others may have the virus and succumb. So genes are important at a certain level to help us to understand things that otherwise may be mysterious. Now we come to this statement, who are you calling elderly? And this is taken from the Wall Street Journal, recently publishing an article entitled, Who Are You Calling Elderly? The article described people over age 60 who were appalled at being branded elderly as it relates to their immunity. Even if a person goes to great lengths to prevent the chronic non-communicable diseases by making right dietary choices, exercising, and even looking younger than his or her age, and all that, of course, is crucially important, yet aging is often accompanied by some decline in immune function. Of course, healthy aging reduces the decline in the immune system, but nevertheless, aging causes some immune impairment. This phenomenon is called immune senescence. Now, at a future time, God willing, I will have to give a talk on the actual immunology and biochemistry of immune senescence, just briefly, because today is the general look at the general principles of strengthening our body and immune system in this pandemic. But immune senescence means that as we get older, certain important immune cells called the T lymphocyte cells, which are made in the bone marrow and have to pass through the thymus to be matured, they tend to get dormant and less active with age. Now, they're very important cells. They are the T cells are important in the innate or first response arm of the immune system, which is a very important arm. And they have to attack first. It is a general attack at any invader, and then they process information to pass on to the adaptive arm. And T cells also play a very important role in captaining or regulating the entire team. And if you don't have a good captain, the team will be beaten. So these T cells tend to become less active, more dormant with age. And we've noticed, as we will look at in a future talk, that the telomere length of the chromosome tends to shorten with age. And when it shortens on these T lymphocytes, they become less potent at attacking invaders. So we will be looking at that in the future, but a lot of science is now looking at the telomere length, the T cells, and natural molecules that can strengthen these T cells and make them, even when you're old, 10, 20 years younger in their function. But as I said, we will look at immune senescence, its immunology and biochemistry in the future, God willing. And so just to go over this, of course, healthy aging, and it is important to age healthily, healthy aging reduces the decline in the immune system, but nevertheless, aging causes some immune impairment. This phenomenon is called immune senescence. And very important now, the presence of chronic inflammation and underlying conditions increase this immune senescence or aging of the T lymphocyte first responder cells. Chronic inflammation is common in our modern days because of the kind of modern diet where people eat a lot of ultra-processed, ultra-refined carbohydrates and meats, and there is still overconsumption of sugars, refined carbohydrates. A lot of factors cause chronic inflammation in the body. We will mention them as we go on. And then underlying conditions obesity, prediabetes, diabetes, hypertension, fat depositing in the arteries. And a person may not know that he or she has chronic inflammation or an underlying condition. So a person may be said to have no underlying condition, and that may just be a surface statement. As I heard one researcher saying this week, and I mentioned this before from a professor in England talking about it, 7 out of 8 adult Americans are metabolically unhealthy, but may be told that they're okay. All right. So although vaccinations are very important in the overall fight against this viral pandemic, yet in some elderly people, vaccinations may not produce the quantity and quality of robust immune response as we would like to see because of this phenomenon of immune senescence. The T lymphocyte cells of the first responders becoming dormant and less potent with age, and also because of chronic inflammation or underlying condition. We know, for example, that for a while that any vaccination for any disease may meet a different response in different individuals. For example, just look at hepatitis B. Most people who catch the virus hepatitis B get over it. Some without any fuss at all, some with a fight, but most get over it. And their immune system would have made antibodies that are lasting against that virus. Viruses vary in how they are dealt with by the immune system. But there are some people whose immune system does not respond to hepatitis B, and the virus infects them and remains in the liver for years. Their immune system can't clear it, and they will end up with cirrhosis of the liver or liver cancer after years of the virus hiding in their liver. We're talking here about hepatitis B virus. And those same people, of course, if they're given a vaccine against it, wouldn't respond. So these are the variations in sinful fallen human beings in this world, variations that occur that we can't, of course, control and we don't know about until a particular individual has a particular problem. So this statement again, in some elderly people, vaccinations may not produce the quantity and quality of robust immune response as we would like to see because of this phenomenon of the T cells becoming more dormant and less potent with age. It is called immune senescence, and also because of chronic inflammation and unhealthy lifestyle and so on. So while we recommend and encourage the elderly and all eligible persons to choose to be vaccinated, everybody, and especially the elderly, should also do all that can be done to strengthen their immune systems in addition to being vaccinated. Very important point. Very important point indeed. And don't forget that a lot of younger people, and we are seeing now in this Delta variant, quite a number of younger people being infected, and some of them severely, and a few of them even to the point of death. And don't forget that a lot of younger people have weakened or impaired immune systems because of unhealthy diet, drinking alcohol, smoking, lack of sleep, and lack of exercise. I'm talking about younger people with bad habits. And it may be said of them, they have no underlying condition, that is surface talk. That means they have no specific diagnosis, but their immune systems would have been impaired by drinking alcohol, smoking, eating fast and junk foods, and not enough sleep, and lack of consistent exercise. And therefore, though young, and declared to have no underlying conditions, their immune system is not in tip-top shape. Moreover, overweight and obesity, pre-diabetes, pre-hypertension. Now, pre-diabetes means that a person is not yet diabetic, but their blood glucose and carbohydrate metabolism is not in ideal condition. In other words, you're not going to be called diabetic. Let me just stop the share and stress this point. In other words, you're not going to be called diabetic until your fasting blood sugar reads 7 or more millimoles per liter, until your HbA1c is 6.5% or more. But if your fasting blood sugar is 6, you're not diabetic yet. But your perfect fasting blood sugar, for example, should be under 5.6. So if your fasting blood sugar is 6, though you're not diabetic yet, you're pre-diabetic, and that less than ideal blood sugar still dysregulates your immune system. Similarly, you're not going to be called hypertensive until your blood pressure is 140/90 or more. But if your blood pressure is 138/88, that may be said to be okay. According to the American Heart Association, it is not okay. It is pre-hypertensive, and it still impacts on the entire system. Just to stress those points. So we're saying then, don't forget that a lot of younger people have weakened or impaired immune systems because of unhealthy diet, drinking alcohol, smoking, lack of sleep, and lack of exercise. And a considerable proportion of our young people do not eat healthy. They eat for taste rather than for health. Moreover, just to stress this again, overweight, obesity, pre-diabetes, I just explained, pre-hypertension, I just explained, and atherosclerosis, and nobody would know this. Fat can be gradually building up in your arterial wall with inflammation, atherosclerosis, the O should be in there, and it creates inflammation in the arterial wall. Nobody's going to diagnose it until, of course, you get a heart attack or a stroke, or until your cholesterol level is very high. There is no specific easy diagnosis for that. But if you catch any virus, and of course the COVID virus, with that inflammatory condition in your arteries, even if you're young, you're going to be more predisposed to severity and mortality. And as I'm saying in this bullet point, all of which might be unrecognized or ignored and predisposed to severe illness and even death in COVID-19, young or old. But before we go any further, let us reinforce the importance of doing all in our power to limit the spread of the virus by obeying the public health protocols, wearing masks, hand sanitizing, physical distancing, avoiding crowds, and wearing masks even at church. Very important for us in a public health emergency and pandemic to do all in our power to limit the spread of the virus, because we're no longer unto self. It is just like a man smoking and says it's his choice and his body. It may be his choice and his body, but that side stream smoke can cause cancer in other people. So the civil government says no smoking in public spaces. If you think it is your choice, go and smoke in your bedroom, because it is the civil government's role to protect the public. Romans 13 is the civil government's God-given role to protect the populace, especially in an emergency. So as responsible, especially professed Christians, we have to understand our responsibility to protect others and of course ourselves. So I'm stressing this very importantly. Before we go any further, let us reinforce the importance of doing all in our power to limit the spread of the virus by obeying the public health protocols. For those of us who are Adventists, remember that there's that famous statement in the Spirit of Prophecy which says we should not defy civil authorities. Wearing masks, hand sanitizing, physical distancing, and avoiding crowds, and wearing masks at church. This is our civil, in fact, therefore, for us who profess Christianity, and Christian responsibility in a public health emergency when others may lose their lives because of our carelessness or rebellious attitude. Also, I want to stress this, and avoiding erroneous concepts that you can do as you like and God will protect you. That is presumption, not faith. That is extremism. Or if you get ill, you can remain at home without being tested or seeking help, and thereby allow your condition to deteriorate to a point beyond help. These are things we have to inform people of. Lives have been lost because of these situations. Now, winter is ahead. For those in northern climates, winter is ahead with the flu virus and declining vitamin D levels. Oh yes, up ahead in northern climates. Here in the Caribbean, we will also face the flu virus because the virus that hits North America hits us here in the Caribbean. And of course, in the winter months, December, January, February, we face the rotagastroenteritis virus. So if you're going to be facing flu and the rotagastroenteritis virus and all this while contending with COVID-19 and our burden of obesity and chronic non-communicable diseases, you see the kind of winter that is ahead. Get checked, very important. Watch your body fat and work on it. A role for temperance. Temperance is one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Christians should know. And one of the steps in Peter's ladder, Christians should know. Temperance is self-control. Temperance is moderation. Temperance is abstaining from the injurious and being judiciously moderate with the good. Fasting and intermittent fasting have also been shown to strengthen the immune system. We have the example of Jesus himself in his 40 days fast before he embarked on his ministry and put his body in the best shape to face the forces of darkness. So watch your body fat and work on it, which means eating less, exercising more, and because it has been shown that body fat is one of the most important factors causing severity and mortality in even before COVID came and the influenza epidemics in the winter in the northern climes, let alone COVID. Very important, get your HbA1c done. You see, going and just getting a blood sugar done, you may be fooled. Your HbA1c will show whether you're pre-diabetic or diabetic without any symptoms yet, because that HbA1c, ideally, you want it under 5.7. If that HbA1c is around 5.9 or 6, you're not going to be called diabetic yet, but it indicates a carbohydrate metabolic state that is not ideal and that renders your immune system less than optimal in function, because insulin levels are going to be higher and postprandial, as post-meal glucose levels are going to spike, and sugar throws the T cells and all the immune cells off their tip-top shape. Get your blood pressure checked regularly. Now, a lot of people drift along, they see fat accumulating, they may not worry about it, they don't know what their carbohydrate metabolism is like, they don't get their HbA1c done, they don't check their blood pressure, they don't get their cholesterol checked. These are markers that indicate things are gradually changing And you may say you have no underlying condition you don't know, and nobody knows if these things are not done. And then your immune system is still being subjugated to stress and will buckle under the attack of a virus. As I would have said before in a talk about a year ago, even before this COVID-19 pandemic, we used to use that America and Europe would lose almost 1 million people in the winter from influenza for those whose vitamin D levels were low, who had obesity and underlying conditions and so on. So any virus can be a threat if the immune system is not in tip-top shape. So get checked, check your own weight, get your HbA1c done. Don't let diabetes creep on, and then all of a sudden, when the blood sugar is then overwhelmingly high, you think it has just come on. It would have been developing gradually. Get your blood pressure checked, get your cholesterol checked. And you may be a vegetarian and you may say, why should I get my cholesterol checked? And that is because there may be genetic inheritances that push your cholesterol up, or you may be a postmenopausal woman, and sometimes as estrogen levels fall, cholesterol rise. So still get it checked. And don't forget, eating a lot of sugar can push your cholesterol up too, because that is the metabolism. Glucose is eventually converted to acetyl coenzyme A, which is a parent molecule in the liver's synthesis of cholesterol. So get checked. All right, we come now to do the basics. Do the basics in this overall lecture. Do the basics. Eat an abundance of fruit and vegetables. Eat an abundance of fruit and vegetables. Avoid the refined processed foods, the fast and junk foods. Eat an abundance of fruit and vegetables. And during this COVID time, a lot of people have understood the importance and have learned the experience of planting some vegetables around the yard. Spinach, very healthy. Basil, very healthy. And a host of others, cabbage and a lot of others. Eat more fruits and vegetables. A lot of people still not eating enough fruits and vegetables, just eating starch and so on. And then, of course, they say they don't have money to buy fruits and vegetables because things are hard. So they just buy white flour, bread, and eat it. We'll come back to that a little later. Eat an abundance of fruits and vegetables. Very importantly now, and this doesn't cost any money, get 7 to 8 hours sleep at night. Research is showing that less than 7 or more than 9, not good. This ideal range, 7 to 8 hours sleep at night. For those of us in our faith who know of that quotation, we should go to bed at 9. There's a quotation which advises that. 7 to 8 hours sleep at night, because lack of sleep interferes with certain hormone systems and interfere with the immune system, especially the first response in the immune system with those same T cells that are so important. Engage consistently in physical exercise, regular physical exercise, moderate, doesn't have to be exhaustive, but pushing it to a limit every now and then helps as well, but moderate, consistent exercise, at least 4 to 5 days a week. Very important. Exercise is so important for the overall health in reducing the risk for the chronic non-communicable diseases, and also for strengthening the immune system. Those who exercise have better innate immune system response than those who don't exercise. Those who get adequate sleep at night have better innate immune system response than those who don't get enough sleep. And eating an abundance of fruits and vegetables, because of the antioxidants and anti-inflammatory molecules, reduce inflammation, improve the health of the whole body. Very important indeed. Avoid sugar and the refined, ultra-processed carbs and meats. Eat more whole, natural, plant-based foods. Very important, eat whole food whole. And remember that mental and spiritual health are critically important, being positive, being happy, trusting God, having the peace that passeth understanding as professed Christians. Mental and spiritual health, critically important, because research is now showing that depression also depresses the immune system. And strangely enough, there is currently some talk about some research on an antidepressant drug, fluvoxamine, which is being shown to help to reduce severity in COVID-19. And it is being shown quite apart from its antidepressant pharmacological properties to be anti-inflammatory. Interesting. So pay attention to mental and spiritual health, very important. Health of spirit, soul, and body. Do the basics continued. So do the basics, eat an abundance of fruits and vegetables, 7 to 8 hours sleep at night, engage consistently in physical exercise, avoid sugar and the refined ultra-processed carbs and meats, eat more whole, natural, plant-based foods. Mental and spiritual health are critically important. Practice public health and personal hygiene. Now this one is, I'm going to stress, do not carelessly or rebelliously expose yourself to the risk of catching the virus. Some people do it carelessly, some people do it rebelliously, both in the society and in churches. Do not carelessly or rebelliously expose yourself to the risk of catching the virus. Remember, there is always an unguarded moment, so be always careful. As a doctor, for example, I'm on the front line, and I know that there can be an unguarded moment. You can do your best in patients calling forward and so on, and yet you can be exposed. Now we come to strengthening the immunity. Evidence-based substances to strengthen the immunity. And I want to stress this point. Don't wait until you get sick to strengthen your immunity. Don't wait. Let me face you face to face and mention this again. Don't wait until you get sick. A lot of people wait until they catch a cold to ask for vitamin C. Don't wait until you get sick to strengthen your immunity. Don't wait until you get sick to try to correct anything in a rush. Then you have to get treatment, of course. But it is before troubles come that we should be following the principles of primary prevention. And by diet and lifestyle, rest and exercise, do the best to do what the Apostle Paul says, whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, do all to the glory of God. Your bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit, Paul says. And Paul says, if you're striving for the mastery, you must be temperate in all things. Very important indeed. So I stress that. Don't wait until you get sick then to, and the amazing thing is that although we've been talking to people about certain important things to be doing all along, we meet people who seem to have never heard, for example, of vitamin D. People who seem to have never heard about the importance of fruits and vegetables at this late hour in the pandemic. So remember the importance of getting knowledge on the area and putting it into practice. Back then to sharing the screen. So evidence-based substances to strengthen immunity. Don't wait until you get sick to strengthen your immunity. In addition to the basics that we just looked at, fruits and vegetables, adequate sleep, regular exercise, avoiding alcohol and tobacco and pernicious habits, being positive, spiritual and mental health. In addition to the basics, add these to your daily immune boosting armamentarium. So now follow these important evidence-based tips. Now, Nothing can substitute for your healthy diet, fruits and vegetables, whole food soul. Nothing can substitute for adequate sleep. Nothing can substitute for regular exercise. Nothing can substitute for watching certain important things, watching your weight, being moderate and temperate, eating healthy, not overindulging. The basic principles are fundamental. And of course, the basic public health protocols, masking, sanitizing, not going into crowds, being careful, not being rebellious or careless, because you can catch this virus. Anybody can catch this virus. And the idea you can do as you like and God will protect you is presumptuous, to say the least. We have to be careful. So in addition to the basics, add to your daily immune boosting armamentarium what we are going to look at now. Now, these are important evidence-based facts. It would have been mentioned already. Let me just stress them again. Vitamin D, 5,000 international units daily. Vitamin D, 5,000 international units daily. And some people's vitamin D levels are so low that they may have to start at 10,000 for a couple of weeks to bring the levels up. And of course, if you're obese, your levels are going to be low because a lot of the vitamin D will be hidden away. In fact, vitamin D is so important for overall health. Vitamin D is so important for both the innate and the adaptive immune arms, the arms of the immune system. Vitamin D, as we said about a year ago, enables the production of certain proteins that block the viral spike protein from so easily attaching to the ACE2 receptor on cells. So vitamin D, I put it at the top of the list there, vitamin D, 5,000 units a day. This has been said over and over again, and there are still people who are not taking it, seem not to have heard of it, don't care anything about it. Vitamin D, 5,000 units a day. Vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams daily. Of course, your fruits and vegetables, but 1,000 milligrams daily. Some authorities recommend 1,000 milligrams twice a day. And of course, there's a phytosomal lipid preparation that is even longer acting, and you can buy a slow release form. But vitamin C, very important for the immune system. So these two, and then comes zinc, 50 milligrams a day. Zinc is very important for the immune system. Trials have been done for vitamin D and zinc, and they have shown preliminary trials, empirical trials, and they have shown quite definitely that the lower the vitamin D level, the more prone a person will be to severe illness or mortality in any virus infection. The lower the zinc level is, again, the more prone a person would be to severity and mortality in any virus infection. So vitamin D, C, and zinc, there's your top three. 5,000 units of D, 1,000 units of C, or daily or twice a day, and 50 milligrams of zinc daily. Now comes number 4, a molecule called quercetin, which is a bioflavonoid found in an abundance in non-citrus fruits, tamarinds and what we call in Barbados dunks and berries and so on, quercetin. But it can also be had in supplement form. And the thing about quercetin is that it is anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and it enables zinc to get into the cells. So it is what is called a zinc ionophore. It enables zinc to get into the immune cells where you want it to get to enhance the potency of the T cells. So quercetin on its own is anti-inflammatory and immune enhancing, but quercetin enables zinc to get into the cells to do its work. So zinc and quercetin separately and together represent a powerhouse, or as we say in Barbadian terms, a mabatan of power. So vitamin D, C, zinc, quercetin. And then we come to this important one, and we have a recent research trial, NAC, N-acetylcysteine, 600 milligrams twice a day, very important. And the thing about N-acetylcysteine is that it helps every cell in the body to make the master antioxidant glutathione. Glutathione. And glutathione is part of a system called glutathione peroxidase, which requires selenium, that is the final defense in every cell. If your glutathione levels in the cells is falling, cells are going to be subject to degeneracy and aging. So NAC replenishes glutathione because it gives this amino acid here, cysteine, which is important to make glutathione. But NAC on its own, apart from building up glutathione in every cell, NAC on its own is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and so important for the lungs because it helps to reduce the thickness and stickiness of mucus in your airways. And if, of course, you have a COVID infection and you get airway mucus, you want that mucus to be cleared by cough or even the physiotherapy clapping your chest and so on. You want that mucus to be cleared easily. If that mucus is too sticky and thick, it is going to block up the airways, especially if there's a cytokine explosive storm. NAC is so good for the lungs. And therefore, in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 molecule team, vitamin D, C, zinc, quercetin, and NAC, you are giving yourself, along with fruits and vegetables and all the basic principles we touched on already, you are giving yourself the best chance for your immune system to fight off anything that comes its way, especially this virus. Vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, and N-acetylcysteine. And these are things you should take every day in this kind of climate we are in a pandemic. And now the last bullet point says, if you test positive, double the dosages of all these for 7 days. So you take the vitamin D to 10,000 and the C to 2,000 and the zinc to up to 100 milligrams just for 7 days, quercetin to 1,000 milligrams and the NAC. Now, some research has recently been done on NAC, showing that people with severe COVID infection, if they carry the NAC daily regime up to 3 600 milligram capsules, 3 or 4 times a day for 5 to 7 days, they get, the research showed tremendous lessening of severity and the tendency towards having to go on a ventilator. NAC at high dose if the person is severe. So taking these daily represent a baseline preventative approach. If you test positive, double up. If there's any severity, you can carry the NAC up to 300 milligram capsules 3 or 4 times a day for 7 days to really offer respiratory and cardiovascular protection. So these are evidence-based, tremendous molecules. And in this kind of climate in which we live with the pandemic, everybody should be on these as a routine. And you can double up if you test positive. If there's severity, you may have to treble up for a few days. Very important molecules. Vitamin D, hope you take note of them and just don't listen to them, but take them. I come across many people who, when I mention vitamin D, they say, what is that? In this day and age, in this COVID-19 pandemic, are there people who don't know what vitamin D is? And people who have heard and don't take it and just nonchalantly go along? Then when the virus comes a knocking, they're asking what to do. We have to be more responsible than that. We saw that in the initial quotation. So vitamin D, C, zinc, quercetin, NAC. And now let's move on. Garlic. Garlic, fresh garlic, or a hyalocin garlic supplement. You can buy garlic supplements, the hyalocin grade, or the aged garlic extract called kyolic, which is a 600 milligram tabs or capsules, 2 to 4 twice a day. The thing about garlic, fresh garlic, and the experts in nutrition say, and in herbal nutrition say, it is best to cut it up and let it rest for several minutes for the allicin yield to be high, and then you can put it in your water and or in your shake or smoothie, whatever you're doing, to get maximum allicin power. So garlic fresh or a hyalocin garlic supplement, which available and cheap, or the aged garlic extract, because when you age the garlic, as the kyolic people do, for 2 years, you get all other amazing sulfur-containing compounds being formed that are very anti-inflammatory, anti-neoplastic, and immune-stimulating. And aged garlic extract, kyolic, usually comes in 600 milligram tabs or capsules, and you can take normally 1 twice a day or 2 twice a day, but if the virus comes a-calling, you can go up to 4 twice a day. Exerts antiviral properties, anti-inflammatory properties. Then there is curcumin, the turmeric extract, and you can use it with BioPerine or the black pepper extract. Curcumin is anti-inflammatory, powerfully anti-inflammatory. Remember, in the COVID attack, when the virus attacks, your immune system may attack it. But in attacking it, some people's immune system, especially if there's already chronic inflammation in the body, may cause an overshoot, an overexplosion of inflammation that, though aimed at the virus, may damage the lungs and the blood vessels, creating clots and all other problems that this virus and the attack can cause. Curcumin is powerfully anti-inflammatory, and vitamin D is powerfully anti-inflammatory, and quercetin, powerfully anti-inflammatory. And now we come to boswellia, frankincense extract, also cheaply available as a supplement. These anti-inflammatories, and boswellia is very good for the lungs. These anti-inflammatory molecules not only enhance immune system attack against the virus, but modulate, moderate, quench any excessive inflammation from causing collateral damage, which is a lot of the problems that we can get. Boswellia. So these are things available: garlic, fresh, or hyalocin garlic supplement, or kyolic, the aged garlic extract, curcumin, supplements available, turmeric itself, the root. You can use the turmeric root called the rhizome in your shakes, in your smoothies. You can cook with it. You can use the powder. You can use the curcumin supplements, and there are certain specialized curcumin supplements with enhanced absorption techniques. BioPerine, the black pepper extract, enhances absorption. But curcumin, a trial has been done with curcumin and BioPerine showing definite reduction in respiratory, inflammatory, collateral issues in flu or any virus. Boswellia, frankincense, remembered well, one of the gifts the wise men gave to, presented to Jesus at his birth. Boswellia, powerfully anti-inflammatory for the whole body and quenches any tendency to inflammatory explosion. And now this one here at the bottom is certainly not the last, because next time I have the opportunity to speak, I'm going to be talking about immune senescence, its biochemistry and immunology, and we're going to be looking at this substance here, astragalus root. Now, astragalus root is now the subject of a lot of research. It has been used a long time in the East, and now in the West, it is being looked at much more carefully. They're discovering a number of molecules in the root, number of molecules in the root, and when you use the whole root, you get everything. And as a matter of fact, there is an agency in the US using the whole root in a preparation, and the initial trials looking very good. Astragalus is an immune enhancer. When I come back and talk about immune senescence in the future, God willing, we will show that astragalus is being shown to lengthen the telomeres on the chromosomes of the T killer cells, rejuvenating the immune system and by extension the entire body. And though a person may be chronologically a certain age, making them functionally younger in terms of immunity. And this astragalus definitely enhances the immune system. And this is genuine immune enhancement. You want those T killer cells of the first response or any immune system to be always young and strong. You want the telomere length to be healthy. You want them to be vigorous. You want them to attack, and you want them to be able to process and send on to the adaptive system. You want these T cells and of course the CD4 T cells that coordinate or captain the entire team. You want them to be strong. That is powerful immunity. You're not just looking at antibodies, important as they are. You're looking at these T cells, the T killer cells out front that attack first. Because you see, the immune system that makes the adaptive arm that makes the antibodies, that is going to take some time. And while that is taking time, a virus may be parading. Whereas the first response immune system, the innate, when that attacks first and put some heavy blows, or sometimes, some people, for example, catch COVID-19 virus and don't even wink because they have such a powerful innate T killer cell system that system writes off the virus without allowing it to cause any symptoms, but still sends on the biological information to the adaptive arm. And the thing about these T cells, they remember, they have T memory cells as well as B memory cells, and you want them healthy to remember that villain that came in. So when it comes again, though antibodies may wear off, both the antibodies you develop if you catch the virus or after immunity may wear off with time, there is accumulating evidence that strong T killer cells in the innate arm, if they're kept healthy, and the T memory cells can be in such a shape as to remember and attack. And therefore, this innate arm is important. Astragalus root is being shown now with research to be very good at making these T killer cells and the T cell memory cells all strong with increased telomere length, which we look at in the future, not going into that immunology and biochemistry now, but and this astragalus root is available, and extracts from it they're looking at very carefully. And all of these are powerfully anti-inflammatory and enhance the immune system. Now, and in addition for the elderly, because remember we start off looking at people at 60 asking why they're being labeled elderly, because it is at 60 and beyond that the immune system left to itself, the innate immune system, the T killer cells tend to become dormant and sleepy and less potent. And therefore for the elderly, all these things mentioned would be important for the elderly or for everybody, young and old. But no, for the elderly, well, we could even say anybody over 50, this melatonin. Melatonin is a natural hormone produced by the pineal gland. It is important for the light darkness, circadian rhythm, and sleeping. But research is now showing that melatonin is a powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant molecule that impacts on so many different systems in the body, hence the importance of sleeping. Because when you go to sleep early, in dark circumstances, in darkness, your pineal gland produces maximum melatonin, which is so good for the health. But again, with age, melatonin levels tend to decline. And by the time you reach 50, melatonin levels are dropping. And by the time you reach my age, melatonin levels are quite low. But you can supplement with melatonin. You can take 10 to 20 milligrams, but people take 5, 3, or 5 milligrams at night or 10. But the research is showing that in this kind of a pandemic environment, you can go up to 10 to 20 milligrams half an hour before bedtime, not only for good sleep, but because of the benefits of melatonin. A study published in 2004, one study on melatonin and viral infections published in 2004 led to the conclusion that melatonin has immunomodulatory, antioxidant, and neuroprotective properties useful in any antiviral fight. Dengue, flu, common cold, COVID, anybody that comes to knocking, melatonin. Hence the importance of sleeping early when you're young and when you're old, and supplementing past a certain age to help boost the immune system with this natural pineal gland hormone, melatonin. Immune boosting herbs, ginger, anti-inflammatory, immune boosting, elderberry. And these other immune boosting herbs I'm listing here, some researchers say that the evidence for these may be preliminary, not as robust as the other evidence. Others say the evidence is quite solid. Ginger, elderberry, oregano. Now, oregano we know has antiviral, anti-inflammatory properties. Onion, and some people use the onion as part of their juicing, part of their shake or smoothie, a green smoothie with some onion in it and garlic in it, powerful stuff. Basil, now a lot of research is also being done on basil, beautiful herb with smell and taste. And we know it is anti-inflammatory, but the research being done has nothing to do with COVID right now. The research being done, a recent article out of the USA, they're focusing on a substance they're finding in basil that is helping to protect the brain against neurodegenerative, that is Alzheimer's. They're very keen on it. They're looking at it very carefully, and they're telling us use more basil, not just for flavor and smell, but for immune boosting and for anti-inflammation, and now for the brain. And of course, good old aloe vera, however you use it, don't mind its bitterness, or if you can't stand the bitterness and want to get a supplement of it that is concentrated, that is available. But these are other immune boosting herbs: ginger, elderberry, oregano, onion, basil, and aloe, anti-inflammatory and immune boosting. Now, when it comes to juicing, and we had a talk on juicing some time ago, don't ever underestimate the power of green leafy vegetables. Green leafy vegetables, so rich in polyphenols, so rich in bioflavonoids, so rich in mysterious molecules not yet even discovered that also strengthen the T lymphocyte killer cells of the innate arm of the immune system and reduce inflammation and help to control blood sugar levels and blood pressure and relax arteries. Green leafy vegetables, whether you're dealing with the cruciferous class, broccoli, cauliflower, green or purple cabbage, radishes, watercress, spinach, longevity spinach, green leafy vegetables, berries, all of the berries rich in quercetin and a whole host of anti-inflammatory polyphenols that quench inflammation and boost the immune system, other fruits. And I was pleasantly surprised when I heard that the Caribbean tamarind, they are finding in the seed some important molecules that they're looking at, very important molecules. I'm going to follow up that research and get back to you with it, some important molecules in the fight against in cancer prevention, inflammation. They're looking at that very carefully. So our Caribbean fruit, berries and dunks and tamarinds, leafy vegetables, don't forget dandelion. I don't have time to mention all the leafy vegetables, but don't underestimate the power of green leafy vegetables, lettuce, and all the vegetables, cucumber and tomatoes. And don't talk about tomatoes and lycopene. Lycopene, of course, is a molecule that impacts positively on every cell in the body. And of course, it protects against pancreatic cancer, protects the liver. It is very good for the lungs, strengthening the lungs against lung cancer and against inflammatory disease. And lycopene, like all the other carotenes, beta carotene, alpha carotene, gamma carotene, zeaxanthin, and lutein, lutein for the eyes and lutein for the colon, all of them, all the carotenoids and lycopene reduce inflammation, protect the arteries, strengthen the immune system. So your carrots and your tomatoes and your green leafy vegetables and your squash, the vegetables with color and the fruits with color. Your watermelon contains another molecular variety of lycopene, and the watermelon skin, you would have heard another brother talk about the value of blending that also in a juice. So the green leafy vegetables, never underestimate. Use them in abundance. You can eat a wash pan full, as we say in the Caribbean, of greens. You won't put on an ounce, but you strengthen your immune system and you reduce inflammation, and you're so much healthier. Our problem in the West is eating too much quantity and too little quality. Berries, very important, and all the other fruits. So that brings me to the end. An overall look at strengthening our immune system and our bodies, basic principles of prevention. And another time I'm going to look at astragalus and telomere length and so on in the future. But that completes my presentation. It is 5:36. I see some questions here in the chat, or some points in the chat. Good safe milligram for astragalus. Researchers are looking at the vicinity of 25, 50, 100 milligrams of the extract. And in terms of the root, if you cut up the root in portions and use about a half a root in blending, that is quite good. They're trying to work out the optimal milligrams of the extracts they're looking at. And then this one, what advice would you give to those who have to work shift in light of what you've said about the benefits of melatonin? Well, this is crucial because some research has shown that even people who have to work shift are at a disadvantage. There is nothing, remember the words of Jesus, 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of darkness. You work in the sunlight and sleep in the darkness. That's the old times formula. But yes, people who have to do shift work, research has shown that they are disadvantaged by not getting enough sleep. So they have to make up. But however you try, you need some hours before midnight, and you need night sleep. Day sleep can help, but day sleep can never substitute for night sleep. So unfortunately, shift workers are at a disadvantage in that particular case. All right, I'm going to stop the share. We have gone past 5:30, but if anybody wants to raise any questions on these molecules concisely, we can answer them. I'll have another opportunity in the future looking at the immunology and biochemistry of the chromosomes and these T cells. This is where our real immune strength lies, empowering these T cells. So make note of those things. And we have more to speak on astragalus in the future, but all these fruits and vegetables and those basic vitamins and these basic principles, let us practice them and safeguard ourselves. Any quick questions before it gets too dark? Go ahead. Of course, in the future, we are going to have a complete half an hour for question and answers, but I wanted to get these important information points in. So any quick questions or points, do so
Yes,
now.
Brother Elliott.
Yes.
Given that some of the things that you mentioned this evening links to the boosting of the immune system and cardiovascular, etc., is it of absolute necessity that we have now to purchase astragalus?
Well, thanks for raising that. My point is that we are dealing with a terrible enemy, this virus, always looking to mutate, and the antibodies produced by the adaptive arm will last for a certain time. But if the innate arm is strong, you always stand the better chance. And that certain of the things I mentioned, astragalus being one, strengthen the innate arm. I say warfare can throw out this virus in terms of prevention or attack, do so. He's a cruel foe, so we have to meet him on all fronts. We can't collapse like, speaking of sports, we can't collapse like the West Indies say. We have to throw everything at this enemy. So I would say yes, Brother Kelman, hit it with everything you can. We have had unfortunate deaths. We are seeing young people dying. We don't know whose immune system is strong by inheritance. So we have to protect ourselves and by extension, everyone, by being careful and by sharing information to help others to do what is best in terms of what they eat and what they supplement with to keep the immune system in tip-top shape.
There's a question in the chat, though.
Okay. Read it for me then, please.
What advice would you? I've told that you want to.
I dealt with the chat already. Thanks.
Right.
Good evening, Doc.
Good evening.
I just need to know how much quercetin do you use? I didn't get that one.
Yeah, quercetin is a top bioflavonoid. It also markedly reduces the risk of cancer of the stomach and bowel and so on. Very powerful stuff. They usually recommend 500. It comes in 500 milligram capsules or tablets, easily available in America and very cheap. We pay more for it in Barbados, you know it is. But they usually recommend 500 to 1,000 as 1 or 2 capsules per day. And it's best taken with a glass of water apart from food in the early morning or with your fruits, because it is a fruit bioflavonoid. Powerful stuff. Now, if you're diagnosed positive and you want to really boost, you can push it up to 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day for about 7 days. But it is good stuff. It pushes zinc into the cells, and it has its own anti-inflammatory, antiviral, anti-cancer properties. Quercetin, you can Google it, is a master bioflavonoid.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I didn't get the last update from Barbados, though. I am kind of lost, but I heard recently that you all was on the lockdown for a long time and you suffer for the second strain or something like that. Could you give a little update? I
think Dr. Carmita Douglin is on, and she is the public health expert and involved in it. So I think she can give an update.
Before you, Dr. Douglin?
Yes.
With the NAC, I find that when I took it, not on an empty stomach, it made me feel nauseated, but when I took it on an empty stomach, it worked better.
Yes,
the NAC.
NAC. Well, thank you for that, Sister Donna. It is recommended that the NAC be taken on an empty stomach. When I take NAC, I take it first in the morning, last night at night.
Okay.
Very good stuff.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What can quercetin be found in? Any natural foods or?
Yeah, quercetin is found in all berries, tamarinds, dunks, all non-citrus fruits. In fact, contains some quercetin.
What about onions?
So if you're eating, and oh yes, and thanks for reminding me there. Thanks very much. onions are rich in quercetin, especially purple onions, rich in quercetin. Thank you very much. So onions, berries, non-citrus, and even radishes contain quercetin. A little bit, you find some in garlic and all the allicin things. Yes, so quercetin is present in abundance. But if you even eating healthy, and if you take a supplement on top of that, you have good protection. Good protection.
So I should be
know of a person that I told to push the DC and quercetin, and they knocked off whatever they were dealing with in a flash.
So I should be on track.
In terms of Sister Linda, USA, our numbers have been here in Barbados in the 300 to 400 range for a while. With
Hi, I think we're losing you, Dr. Douglin. Linda, just to respond to that, I'm not sure what you mean by lockdown. We haven't had a lockdown for a very long time. So we haven't been locked down.
Oh, I thought so. I thought because you all were not at church and on Zoom, I assumed that you all were locked down.
No, I think
okay.
Our congregation made the decision because of the high numbers and because of the community spread not to have face-to-face service. But we haven't been locked down. The only thing is that there's a 9 o'clock curfew, which is going to change shortly and would probably be 11 or 12 o'clock. But in terms of the numbers, up to the 5th, we had 315 cases. And this has been the usual for a while, over 300 cases on average. And we've been seeing like almost 3 to 7 deaths a day. So the deaths are escalating too. So we're now at 172 deaths. And we're now at 19,831 cases. So with all the add up, our cases has moved in 1 month to a whole lot. And then in terms of isolation, both Harrison Point and the schools, we have 927 persons in isolation, and home isolation is 6,471. So we have a lot of people in home isolation, and some of those people in home isolation seem to be moving around. Because
okay, I got a question. Were these people vaccinated?
Some have been vaccinated, not in terms of the deaths. I think we have had like 2 persons who were fully vaccinated that died, but the other 170 persons were not vaccinated. And in terms of the home isolation and stuff, you had a few of them were vaccinated, but the majority are unvaccinated. So that has been the case. But you know that vaccinated people can become positive. But
yes, please. I know that. Yeah.
Right. But in terms of deaths, the majority of people, as I would say to you, 170 out of the 172 were not vaccinated.
Okay,
so
thank you.
That's basically a snapshot of the situation right now.
Yeah, thank you for the information. And I would like to say that Doc, at first, when this coronavirus started, he brings some good information on the vitamins that you should take. And I would like to say that I have been taking those vitamins, not all of them, like quercetin and NAC, but I've been taking my vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and so on, and I add others to that.
Yes.
But I would say that I have been working around corona patients. I was not vaccinated. I decided for some reason not to take this vaccination. And right now, the point I am at, and I didn't even know if I catch the virus because I wasn't getting tested at all either. Right. So, and then that had kept me because I believe of taking these vitamins in the early stages and every day, I was able to be kept from the virus or from the effects of the virus if I ever catch it. So right now I am at the stage because in my company, everybody is basically vaccinated. And I was shocked that Christians decided to stand up. A few of them decided to stand up and not take the vaccine for some reason. So then they went to the doctors and get an exemption along with myself. And we are still working, but we are being tested now every week. So I would just like to share that because I believe every little information upon this virus is important.
Yeah. All the information is important, but I must say to you that I am sure there were a few persons who have been taking stuff who succumbed to the virus and died. So,
yes, it's on all boards because some have been vaccinated and now they're getting the virus. So
you can get the virus if you're vaccinated. Being vaccinated doesn't stop you from getting the virus necessarily, but it stops you from being adversely ill and from dying. So the one or two that you probably would have seen that died that were vaccinated would have had underlying conditions and severe conditions. All right. So it's still recommended that you protect yourself.
People who died that were vaccinated out of the 172. You said that 170 were unvaccinated and only 2 single persons for the last 2 years died that were vaccinated?
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. You can check it out because I have all of the information and you can check it because every time there is a death, they tell you if the person is vaccinated or not. So that information is given to the public. That information is not hidden from the public. Right. So if there are more than 2, it might be 1 more, but basically that is
a bit more. It's probably about 5 of them so far, but they were clear to say they had underlying conditions.
You would need to double check that information, and I don't think that is correct. But you would need to double check that information rather than coming out and saying 5.
And just 1 week alone, they had at least 5.
No, that is not true. That is not true.
All right, I will not argue about that there, though.
Don't argue, and I don't want to take the time to send you all of them because I have every day's information, and I can go back and double check. But I remember hearing only 2, but I can go back and double check.
It's more than 2, though.
I wouldn't say they're more than 2. So if you don't have the information, don't suggest it. But you need to make sure you go back and check the information.
I have all of them on my page. I'll check it later and tell you.
Right, yeah. So go back and check all from your page. Yes.
Okay, well.
Just a quick question. Why those people who have died with underlying sicknesses and they die, they said it is from the virus. Why wouldn't they say then it is from what was the underlying problem?
I can mention that because the underlying problem was there all along, and it's only after they contracted the virus that they died. So if they did not contract the virus, they might have continued another week, another 2 weeks, another month, another 5 months. But if you look on the death certificate, what they would have is primary and secondary. They would have everything on the death certificate, but it is because they contracted the virus that they died right away. If they hadn't contracted the virus, they might have had another month, another 6 months, whatever, especially if it is something like diabetes or something like hypertension. Persons live for many years with medication. So that is why they would link it to the virus, because right now they're counting the virus, the deaths from the virus. But they will have everything there. But that doesn't mean that the diabetes killed the person. They could have continued another 6 years with the diabetes or the hypertension.
They might have lived. No person knows that. And another thing.
Of course we know that. So don't say nobody knows that.
Does anyone know of anyone that died that had no underlying problem? Because it's everybody.
Yes. There were at least 1 or 2 persons.
Yes, on my prayer line, they had a guy that now died, a young guy. I don't know how old, but I'm assuming that he's younger than 65. And he just died from no underlying causes. Yes.
Yeah, and we had some here in Barbados too. It might have been one or two, not many, but and internationally, there were a number of persons who died that didn't have underlying conditions either.
Can I say, excuse me a minute?
Yes,
If
you're
y'all-
excused. Go ahead.
Y'all just listen to my talk. If y'all just listen to my talk,
Thank you.
will see
Yes.
that the term no underlying conditions, I explained that a person can have an HbA1c, a blood pressure, cholesterol in the arteries that nobody knows anything about. And they will be labeled no underlying condition. But that does not mean the immune system wasn't dysregulated by bad diet and so forth. So be careful to what conclusions you want to jump with that line of argument, because
I'm glad you say that. I'm glad you say that.
person can be eating junk and have no underlying diagnosis that is official, but
Correct.
mashing up the immune system. And when they're there, you will say, that body was sturdy and had no underlying condition. And true, as
Correct.
one expert says, only 1 in 8 Americans is metabolically healthy. 7
Correct.
or 8 mash up, but will have no underlying diagnosis officially. So be careful.
Even though that is correct, Dr. Douglin, even though that is correct, still there are persons who would have been admitted. They might not be aware of any underlying conditions, whether it's diabetes or whatever, but they would have done tests and probably find out, yes, they had some condition, or they might have done tests and find out that they had no other conditions. So that is where it lies. But I agree with you that they might have been metabolically, which is basically different. But in terms of saying that they might have had pre-diabetes or pre-hypertension, as long as they were in the primary isolation or whatever, they would have continued to do those tests over to every day, daily tests. So just to mention that.
Okay, so
Hello,
I want to thank you all.
Dr. Douglin, just
Yes,
one question I wanted to ask. The NAC, what's a good source for that? Because I've been trying to locate it. What is a good source for the NAC?
Unfortunately, right now, there's no NAC in the island.
Wow.
That has to do with the fact that there are going to be some changes in the USA in terms of how they allow it to be distributed, and people have been zapping it up. So we are awaiting shipment here in Barbados. But our health food stores have had it in the past, but right now they're out of stock. You can order it from certain places in the US. You can still order it. And if you want to order it, you should order it pretty quickly before it becomes less available.
Okay. I was looking
But
around for it
can
for a
you
while.
see a way is that they're stopping people from getting it? Can you see a way?
I have been told that one suggestion is that the FDA is going to label it as a prescription medication, and therefore it would have to be prescribed by the doctor, because they said back in the 1960s when it started out as a medication for liver toxicity after paracetamol overdose. So since it started that, they're going to take off the label natural and keep it as a medication and say it should be prescribed by a physician. But there are some discussions on in the States and some agitation, so we have to wait and see how that plays out.
The good and bad, no two bubbles.
Okay.
But good evening, Brother Douglin.
Yes.
Even in the States, it's hard to find it because when we were looking for it, the places that you go there, they didn't have any.
Yeah, it is getting difficult to find now. 1 or 2 companies you can still get it from, so you can contact me off the air for that.
Oh, yes, it's good. I'm gonna buy 10 bottles online tonight.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, yes, I was purchasing the NAC from Amazon and now it's no longer available. It's not even available at our health food stores anymore here in the US. So it's already pretty much hard to find here as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, Douglin, I will say this, that because of its seeming very usefulness when it comes to dealing with COVID, the change in regulation for it now is now much more apparent. So people that are trying to buy up in large doses because it has been working very good for COVID patients. And I had to buy a few of mine online too, and hopefully we'll get them in the next 2 weeks. That's how it is right now. It's been working very, very good.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to say thank you all. Next time we are going to go into some deeper information on the T cells and telomeres, astragalus, and some other molecules, because we have to get all the knowledge we can to keep the immune system in tip-top shape. So thank you. And God bless you. Have a good week. We're going to stop both the YouTube and the recording now as we close off. And I want to thank you very much for joining us, and some guests who join us. Thanks for joining us as well.